Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into a genuinely timeless story that tackles something, well, pretty much all of us battle at some point, our own anger. Have you ever felt like everyone around you is just constantly out to push your buttons? Well, our source material today centers on a villager who felt exactly that way. He was totally convinced that his unhappiness, his constant frustration, his explosive temper, all of it was entirely the fault of other people. Like if they would just act right, he'd be perfectly fine. But that whole illusion came crashing down one afternoon. He was out working in his field when a neighbor's kid accidentally broke one of his tools. And man, he just erupted. He yelled so aggressively the kid literally ran away, terrified and sobbing. But here's the fascinating part. Instead of feeling that usual, fleeting rush of vindication that sometimes comes with venting, he just felt terrible. A huge, unshakable weight just settled right in his chest.
So that night, he's sitting alone in the dark, totally sleepless. The house is dead quiet, but his mind is just racing. His chest feels incredibly heavy, and this weird restlessness completely consumes him. And he finds himself desperately asking this one question: why do I get even more upset after getting angry? Now that is a brilliant question, isn't it? I mean, if anger is supposed to be this defense mechanism, a way to protect ourselves or set boundaries, why does it so often leave us feeling like we're the ones who just lost a fight? He realized right then, in that tense little moment, that his anger actually wasn't a shield at all. It was a weapon, and he was accidentally turning it on himself.
And look at the aftermath here. Eventually, the man goes to seek out this wise, profoundly peaceful elder in the village, a fakir who usually just sits under this massive banyan tree. And the elder asks him a really simple question. When your anger finally fades, what is left? The man actually stops to think about it, and his answer is super striking. He doesn't say victory. He doesn't say resolution. No, he lists these three incredibly heavy things: fatigue, regret, and emptiness. I want you to just let those words sink in for a second. Because this is the true toll of unmanaged emotional outbursts, right? It drains your energy completely. It fills you with this awful feeling of wishing you could take things back, and it just leaves this hollow space inside you. The stakes for this guy were huge. He was literally exhausted from his own mind.
Okay, let's dive straight into this. Part 1, the rippling mind. So the villager admits to the fakir that he's just tired, and he feels completely powerless to stop his own knee-jerk reactions. Now, instead of giving him some long, complicated lecture, the fakir uses this brilliant visual demonstration. He picks up a bowl of completely still water and tells the man to look into it. The surface is like glass. His reflection is absolutely perfect. But then the fakir vigorously shakes the bowl. Ripples completely distort the surface, and the reflection just shatters into a chaotic mess. The fakir explains it like this: when your mind is calm, you get a clear reflection of reality. You can easily tell the difference between right and wrong, or, say, a real threat versus just a clumsy accident. But when anger strikes, the water is shaken, and the truth is entirely hidden. You literally cannot see reality clearly when you're in a state of rage. Your whole perception gets distorted by those emotional ripples.
Moving right along to Part 2, Silence versus Calmness.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that the villager is smart, and he raises a supernatural counter-argument. He basically says, okay, so what are you saying? When someone insults me or disrespects me, am I supposed to just sit there in silence and take it? It's that classic fear we all have, right? Becoming a doormat just to keep the peace. But the fakir makes this vital distinction that completely shifts the paradigm. Staying quiet and staying calm are two entirely different things. He tells the man, you don't have to stay quiet, but you absolutely must stay calm. See, staying quiet is just suppressing your voice. It's biting your tongue while you're literally boiling with rage on the inside. That is not peace. That is a pressure cooker waiting to blow. Staying calm, though, is about maintaining internal emotional control. It means you can absolutely still speak up, you can set a boundary, but you're doing it from a place of clarity, not from a place of chaotic, shaken water.
And to really cement this idea, the fakir offers this incredibly powerful metaphor. He says, if someone throws dirt at you, catch it or step aside. The fakir points out that the decision is always his. When someone insults you, they're essentially just throwing dirt. If you get angry, take offense, and react, well, you're choosing to reach out and catch that dirt with your bare hands. You're the one making yourself dirty. But you always have the option to simply take a step aside and let the dirt fall harmlessly to the ground. The offense belongs to the thrower, not the target, unless the target actually chooses to catch it. Taking offense, we realize here, is a completely active choice.
Which brings us to Part 3, the settling sand.
So the villager takes this profound lesson home, and it really starts to resonate with him. But the fakir actually isn't done yet. The very next day, he calls the man back for a second, much more intense visual trial. This time, he's using fire. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact psychological process of losing and then regaining our temper. The fakir places a pot of water over a blazing fire until it's just violently boiling. He asks the man, "Can you put your hand in this?" The man's like, "Of course not, it'll burn me." The fakir explains this is step one. When your emotions are running hot and boiling over, peace is completely untouchable. You cannot force calmness into a boiling mind. Then, step two. The fakir throws a handful of dirt and sand into that boiling pot. The water becomes this murky, chaotic mess. This perfectly represents our impulsive reactions. When we react blindly in the heat of the moment, we are just muddying the waters even further. But then comes step three, and this is the most important part. The fakir takes the pot off the fire, pours that murky water into a cool bowl, and they just sit there in silence. They do absolutely nothing. And slowly, the sand settles to the bottom, and the water becomes perfectly clear again. The lesson? When you stop impulsively responding to every little provocation, your mind naturally settles. Clarity returns all on its own.
And finally, part 4, reclaiming your power.
Watching that sand settle, this massive realization finally hits the villager. For years, he thought he was fighting his neighbors, his family, the whole world, but he was actually just fighting himself. He was the one constantly stirring the sand, constantly keeping his own pot on the fire. And this brings us directly to how this applies to your life, which is really the core thesis of our source material today. When provoked, you don't lose your power, you give it away. Think about it. When someone deliberately tries to make you angry, they can't magically reach into your brain and steal your peace. That's just impossible. What they do is offer you a provocation. They throw the dirt. And when you explode in anger, when you let your water boil over, you are voluntarily taking your own power, your own emotional stability, and handing it over to them on a silver platter. True strength isn't about yelling the loudest to defeat someone else. True strength is having absolute mastery over yourself, because the person who controls themselves truly controls their life.
So the crucial point here is, how do we actually do this in the real world? How do we stop the boiling? Well, from the wisdom of the fakir, we can extract this highly actionable 3-step framework for real-world emotional regulation. The next time you feel that heat rising in your chest, do not immediately react. Step 1, stop for just a single moment. Take the pot off the fire. Step 2, take a deep breath. Just let that sand begin to settle. And step 3, use this powerful internal mantra. Say to yourself, "I will not catch this dirt." Remind yourself that you have a choice. You can step aside and maintain your pristine, calm water.
Learning to step aside rather than reacting is nothing short of a superpower in today's world. I mean, it literally saves you from the fatigue, the regret, and that terrible, empty feeling the villager felt in the dead of night. Provocations are going to happen. That's just a guarantee in life. But you now have the tools to keep your water clear. So I want to leave you with this. What will you do the next time someone tries to hand you their dirt? Will you catch it, or will you let it fall? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today, and as always, keep learning.